The story of Dark Shadows begins in the summer of 1966 with the arrival of Victoria Winters in Collinsport, Maine, a small fishing village. Vicky has been hired by the wealthy Collins family to be governess to 9-year-old David Collins. The mistress of Collinwood, Elizabeth Collins Stoddard, has not left the estate since the disappearance of her husband, Paul Stoddard, 18 years ago. Elizabeth's brother Roger and his troubled son David also reside in the Great House, along with Elizabeth's 18-year-old daughter Carolyn. An abandoned orphan who grew up in a New York foundling home, Vicky is hopeful that her new life in Collinsport will provide clues to her true identity. As she arrives in town, Vicky meets a mysterious man named Burke Devlin.
Excuse me. I wonder if you'd know if they have any taxis here.
I wouldn't know what they have here. Not anymore.
Well, how did they expect anyone to get to town?
Broomsticks in uniform. And chauffeured cars. Can I give you a lift? I can take you to the hotel. You'll get a taxi there.
That's very kind of you, Mr.
Devlin. Burke Devlin.
I'm Victoria Winters.
Welcome to the beginning and the end of the world, Miss Winters.
I'm afraid I'm not going that far. Only to a house called Collinwood. Do you know it?
Yes, I do. Very well. Shall we go?
Advising Vicky to stay away from Collinwood, Burke suggests she return to New York immediately. Collinsport Inn waitress Maggie Evans also warns Vicky to avoid the Collins family.
Move in there. But take a good look in that mirror right now. Because in 2 months, that pretty hair of yours is going to be one glorious shade of gray.
You make it sound like some old English novel with rattling chains, ghosts in the corridors.
You think that's wrong? I could tell you things about that house that would rock you from here all the way back to the railroad station.
I'd rather not hear them.
Okay. There's one born every minute.
Vicky is determined to continue her journey, unaware of the infinite mysteries that lie ahead.
I'm Victoria Winters. Is Miss...
Come in, Miss Winters.
The disturbed young David Collins, resentful of his father's plans to send him away, attempts to kill Roger by sabotaging his car. But Roger survives the near-fatal crash. After learning that Collinwood's caretaker, Matthew Morgan, has killed Bill Malloy, manager of the Collins fishing fleet, Vicky is kidnapped by Matthew and held captive in a secret room in the abandoned old house on the estate. But the ghost of Josette Collins protects Vicky from harm. And Matthew dies from fright after encountering the ghost of Bill Malloy. The unexpected arrival of Laura Collins, Roger's wife and David's mother, places David's life in great danger. A creature of the supernatural, Laura is an immortal phoenix, reborn from fiery ashes every 100 years. Laura has come back to reclaim her son and lure him into the flames.
David! David! No, David!
Oh, Vicky. Vicky, I am going to give him eternal life. He's going to be reborn just as I've been reborn, century after century.
No, David! Please hear me, David!
Go away, Vicky. He can't hear you. Go away before it's too late. Look at these ashes. The Phoenix is reborn.
After months of investigation, Burke obtains proof from Sam Evans that Roger was responsible for the automobile accident which sent Burke to prison.
Sam, refresh his memory. You were driving. The car was weaving all over the road.
Okay, Sam. Now, Roger, you were driving the car. You hit the man. You killed him.
Say it.
Roger, please.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Say it!
I was driving. I hit the man. I killed him.
And the money you gave Sam.
I gave the money to Sam to keep him quiet.
And now, just one more thing.
Please.
I sent an innocent man to prison for 5 years.
Say it! Say it! An innocent man for 5 years. Say it or I'll choke it out of you.
I sent an innocent man to prison for 5 years.
At last. Now it's over. I thought I wanted to see you rot in prison. But people like you rot wherever they are.
Elizabeth is shocked at the appearance of Jason McGuire, an unscrupulous friend of her missing husband. Jason forces Elizabeth to allow him to stay at Collinwood and blackmails her to remain silent about the mysterious circumstances surrounding her husband's disappearance.
I want you out of here, away from Collinwood, out of Collinsport before morning.
I'm afraid that's impossible.
Oh, no, it isn't. It's not necessary for you to be here.
Oh, no, it's not necessary for me. But it is for you.
What do you mean?
If I were to leave here, I might meet people. The authorities, the police, and I might want to talk to them.
No.
Yes.
You wouldn't. You agreed not to. You promised.
Wouldn't I? Anyway, why should it bother you if I want to look in here? I already know what's in here.
Then why don't you stay away?
Maybe I want to pay my respects.
Don't say that.
Why not? Paul was a good friend of mine. He may not have been a very good friend or husband to you, Liz, but he was a good and loyal friend to me. Pity you had to go and kill him. And weren't you fortunate that you had a good, loyal friend like me around to bury him for you?
Stop it.
I'm sorry, Liz, but you made me say it. But I won't say it again. Unless, of course, you force me to.
In the meantime, Willie Loomis, a drifter friend of Jason's, arrives in Collinsport and stirs up his own trouble.
You think you're a pretty big man in this town, don't you?
Come on now, Willie.
Oh, no! No, I get a kick out of these guys who act like they're so clean. When all the time they're trying to cover up their dirt.
There's the door. If you're smart, you'll walk out of it. If you're not, you'll be carried out.
Attaboy. Now you're talking like a real ex-con. You're dead, jailbird.
Cool it, Bob. I'll handle this punk.
Joining Jason as an unwelcome house guest at Collinwood, Willie becomes fascinated by the Collins family wealth. The jewelry pictured in the portrait of Barnabas Collins holds particular intrigue for Willie. Learning that several Collins ancestors were buried with their jewels, Willie heads for the Collins mausoleum at Eagle Hill Cemetery to rob the graves. But instead, Willie uncovers the Collins family's most terrible secret.
Yes?
I'd like to see Mrs. Stoddard, if you'd be so kind.
Mrs. Stoddard?
This is Collinwood, isn't it?
Yes.
And the mistress here is Mrs. Elizabeth Collins Stoddard, is she not?
Yes.
Then perhaps you'd do me the courtesy to inform Mrs. Stoddard that her cousin is calling and wishes to pay his respects.
Her cousin?
Yes, her cousin from England.
From England? Oh, please, come in.
I'd be delighted, thank you.
Oh, would you like to wait in the drawing room?
Here would be fine, thank you.
Oh, well, I'll let Mrs. Stoddard know you're here.
Oh, madam, if you would, you may tell her that it's Barnabas Collins.
I don't believe it.
I beg your pardon.
What is Barnabas?
And you're Elizabeth, cousin Elizabeth.
Cousin Elizabeth. Yes, I guess I am.
I apologize for coming without letting you know in advance.
It's uncanny.
What is?
With that portrait over there, have you seen it?
Yes. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, if it weren't for the clothes, oh, forgive me for staring, but for the moment it seems as though I'd seen a
ghost.
Well, the likeness is remarkable. I can hardly believe it.
The Collins blood always had a certain persistent strength.
This is no way to greet a relative. Welcome to Collinwood.
Thank you, cousin.